All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. It is January 15th. Do you know how long I have been waiting for this day? I'm so excited to be chatting with the legendary Mr. Steve Ferrone today. He has been a drummer that I've been listening to, and millions have been listening to. He has been a part of the soundtrack to many people's lives over the last 50 years or so. He is definitely groove royalty, whether it is in the funk, R&B, pop genres, or blues, jazzy fusion, or rootsy rock and roll. He has done it all, and his list is an absolutely tremendously long list of the artists that he has played with. Before we bring Mr. Ferrone out, I have a few thank yous. I want to thank my friend Nicholas Lucero for all his amazing behind the scenes work the past couple of weeks. He's been fabulous at helping me up the game here of the program with social media strategies. Thank you to Maurice Johnson for the fabulous promo video and the flyer. And I want to thank Dinah Gretsch for the connection with Steve. Otherwise, I may not have been able to have him on the program today. So he is maybe best known for playing 22 years with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but he has played with the likes of George Harrison, Average White Band, Bloodstone, Paul Simon, Shaka Khan, Prince, Steve Winwood, Jeff Lynne, a slew of New York City session royalty, the Saturday Night Live house band, Duran Duran, Michael Jackson, Scritti Politti, Christine McVie, Jeffrey Osborne, Tracy Chapman, the B-52s, Johnny Cash, and many more. I am looking for Mr. Steve Ferrone here to join us here, and I don't see him on deck yet, but hopefully will be soon. Could you say hello and let me know that you hear me okay, that everything looks good and sounds good, and let me know where you are watching from, and we will try to get to your questions. I am waiting to see if Mr. Ferrone is on deck here, and we will get underway. I'm telling you, I couldn't sleep. I phoned Steve a few weeks back and answers the phone as thanks, Scott. And Steve answered, yelling my name, Neil, as if we were old friends. It's pretty awesome. So everybody hears, okay, we're just a couple minutes away. I'm just hearing from Steve. And it's really great that we can do this live, and even better that we can kind of save this in YouTube and on the Facebook page, that for those folks that are busy at this time or working or whatnot, they can watch this on replay. But there's nothing better than, hey, nothing better than watching it live. Hi, Hal. Hello, Rocky, Scott, and my son, Liam LaFortune here. And I'm looking for, so do you have a question for Steve? I have a really good list of questions here. And hopefully you have, hey, Lonnie, nice to see you. Northeast Ohio, Macon, Georgia. I'm glad it sounds good here. Let's just see. I'm checking in here. Macon, Georgia. Is it warm down in Georgia, Hal, right now? It's not bad here. It's probably 32, 34, something like that. It's good for wintertime here. 90 minutes north of Toronto, which is normally. Likewise, Northeast Ohio. Hi, Ted. How are you? Nice to see you. And we are just waiting for Mr. Steve Ferrone. I've been listening to him. I've had so many of his songs stuck in my head over the last few weeks, or songs that he's played on, not knowing that certain ones were him, which is pretty awesome. Okay, we're just chatting back and forth. Sweet Lips, Tennessee, Sam Johnson. How are you, Sam? I hope the weather is good wherever you are. It looks like Woodstock, Ontario is toasty warm right now here. I'm kind of kidding. So this is good. What else do we have here? This is okay. And well, does anybody have any questions they would like to write now in these comments that we can refer back to when Steve joins us here? Because we definitely want to get to the questions here. 45 degrees in Tennessee. That's actually not, but it's January, so it's a little better than what it is here. You're a little further south than I am. So if you have any questions right now that you can think of, like I've seen some of them as like, how do you keep your chops up? What do you practice right now? What have you been doing since March? Things like that. Stuff like that. And yes, we are waiting here patiently. And I think we're getting close. Okay. We want to have, yeah, we look like we're all ready to rock here. We are just waiting for Steve. Does everybody here play Gretsch drums right now? Can you type in yes? I know, Rocky, you don't. And Scott Molson, I don't think you do. I wish you did. Oh, good. In Woodstock, that my son says he has his swimsuit on. What has been Steve's favorite tour? We will get to that when we, yes. Man, I tell you, I've had so many of these songs in my head. I've had this Duran Duran song, Ordinary World song in my head for the last few weeks. Lonnie Clayton, I'm lucky enough to have one of Steve's Gretsch aluminum signature snare drums. Does Steve use one very often? How is the knee surgery recovery coming? If you don't see that I asked that, Lonnie. Hi, Dinah. Lonnie, if you see that I don't ask that once we get rolling here, please type that in again because it may scroll to the bottom. Nice to see Dinah Gretsch here, joining us all the way from somewhere warmer than here, maybe Pooler, maybe Savannah, I'm not sure where, but I'm grateful to you for all the support and grateful to you, Dinah, for the connection to Steve. Okay, now, Steve, if you happen to be watching here, maybe not. I'm just going to ask him. I'm sorry for this, folks. It's going to be worth the wait. Oh, you do? That's right. His favorite musicians to play with and why. Oh, Hal Dent, you have USA Customs. Very, very nice. Rocky, you do have a Gretsch Country Club guitar. Remember that. It's a beautiful guitar. Yes, absolutely. Now, I am just going, I apologize, folks. I'm going to send this one. There. We'll see how that works out here. USA Customs, very nice. And Scott Molson asking Steve's favorite musicians to play with and why. That's awesome. Okay, Steve is writing me here from his phone. I apologize. Ah, this is good. He's good. He says be patient. So we're good here. Very good. Okay, let's see some more questions. Hey, Brad, nice to see you. I didn't see you there. I didn't see you there. And Dinah, where are you? Are you at the office in Pooler today, or are you at home watching? Hopefully, Mr. G is watching as well. I know you've had a long relationship and happy relationship with Steve, and man, he's an absolutely wonderful ambassador for the brand. I remember seeing the ads back in the 70s when he was playing with the Average White Band, playing that really cool, looks like white Gretsch kit with the stripe, and apparently that is being refurbed at the factory, which would be, oh man, it's going to be amazing. I'd love to see the unveiling of that. Hey, Lena, how are you? Nice to see you. Hardest song to play from Scott Molson. Man, I'm going to have to remember. Oh, most demanding musician. Oh, this is very good. These are some good questions here. Hey. Hi, Ron. Nice to see you. Yes, Mr. Ron White from Montana. I was playing in his neck of the woods maybe 6 or so years ago from, out in Montana, Helena, Montana, I think it is. This is awesome. Hardest song to play. Oh, you're at the Pooler office today. Very good. Very nice. And we are in the Aurelia office here, where there's, we are ready, folks. Are you ready? I am so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my esteemed guest on episode 37, Mr.
37, my age.
Exactly, my age. Look at this. But you don't age. You know, if I didn't know that you and your broadcasters were made in the same year, I wouldn't have guessed 70. Oops.
They're actually in better condition than I am.
Right. Oh, I don't know. How's the knee doing these days?
Knee is doing fantastic. I was just at the doctor yesterday. I got a brand new photograph. It looks beautiful.
Oh, good. Yeah, I saw the before and after. That looked pretty nasty, bone on bone.
Yeah. But it's all going very well now. Very well.
I'm glad to hear somebody was inquiring here. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the program here. I've been excited to be chatting with you over the last few weeks. And since our phone call,
I'm excited too. I didn't die of COVID yet.
No.
That's a pretty exciting event considering what's going on with that. It's not very. Yeah.
It's not getting better. It's worse up here. We are at stay-at-home order in Ontario in Canada. I don't know what it's like in Los Angeles area where you are, but here it's
well, yeah, but it's more self-imposed here. I mean, I wish somebody would turn around and just say, okay, that's it, everybody stays home and that's your lot. Yeah, but they have this thing here called freedom that they seem to take for granted sometimes.
Yeah, it goes overboard a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, it's only been 10 months since we've been home now. I used to say, what have you been doing since March? And now I'm saying, so what have you been doing since March of last year, right?
I got all this here. I mean, I got plenty to do.
Yes, I see. What drum kits that's a broadcaster kit.
That's it. That's the, hold on, let me do it this way, because that's a 1950 Gretsch broadcaster.
That's beautiful.
And on this side is the micro kit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What do you use that for? What kind of music?
That's kind of like jazz or Motown. If I want to get the Motown sounder, I just use that one there. And then of course there's, I don't know if I can see how I can do this. There's a little collection of snare drums.
Oh man.
That's not all of them, but that's a lot of them. That's the ones that I have here.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's a nice collection. Well,
yeah,
so what have you been recording? What have you been playing? Are people sending you tracks to play on? Are you writing music?
A lot of artists have been sending me stuff to play on. There's a band and a lot of international stuff too. Last night, Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots had a song that he wanted me to work on for him, and I set up my studio. I was in when this whole COVID thing fell apart. I was actually in New York. I was the guest drummer on the Seth Meyers show, and I was
Right.
I really enjoyed it, and I was just getting the hang of it, because it's like you go in and you get into the rhythm of how they work there, and everybody was really nice, and it was like people were being a little bit careful, no masks or anything, but people were bumping elbows and stuff there, and
Right.
the last day, the Thursday, they said we went in to because they write the music, we sit in and jam, and then we make pieces of music for the show. So
Yep.
that's why the show gets different every time there. Anyways, we went in and they said, well, this is going to be the first show that we're going to do without a live audience because of the COVID.
Wow.
And then later on that afternoon, they said that a friend of somebody in the production, I think it was like a friend of a friend, had been tested positive, and they decided that they were going. It was just too risky. And great, good on them. They decided to take care of everybody and shut the whole thing down. So the next morning, I got up to go to a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I walked across Times Square, and there was like 3 people, including me, in Times Square, and so when I got back home, I thought, this is really, really serious, and it's going to be a lot longer than what we think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I've been listening very closely to I have lots of friends in Italy.
Okay.
And they were telling me what was going on there, and I thought this is going to be a bit more than what we think it's going to be here. It's still being taken very lightly.
Yeah.
And so I got back and I called John Connolly, who's my well, not mine, but he's a really great John Connor, sorry. He's a really great Pro Tools guy around town, does a lot of work for a lot of great engineers. They introduced me to him and said, "Oh man, this is the guy who can help you set up your stuff." And I said to him, I said, "Well, what would it take for me to be able to upgrade my system so that the guy who I work with an engineer named Derek Thorngren. He's an old friend of mine from New York, a great engineer. His claim to fame really is that he mixed Addicted to Love. So he's a really, really, really good, great engineer. So what I said, what would it take to be able for him to be able to mix me from Long Beach, be able to engineer, take control of my stuff from Long Beach? And we tried it a couple, but it just didn't. For some reason, it just didn't hook up. I needed to upgrade my system to be able to do that. And John came over and just gave me a price on it, and then I gave him the money, and he went and ordered all the stuff and changed up all the stuff, and
wow.
And so now it's quite nice because I mean, he doesn't have to battle the traffic coming up here from Long Beach to record me, and we talk on I got iPad, so I set up the iPad and we do a Zoom conference, and then bring in the client, and then they listen. They say, "Oh, I like that. I don't like that." The only problem is that they don't get the sound. They get the sound through his iPhone. So he has an iPhone that he sets up. That he watches me, and for one person it's fine, but when you add another person, and he we have this thing called Sound Movers where he can actually listen with a bit of a delay, but in real time for him, what I'm recording. So he gets in his studio. He gets basically he hears what I hear, and it's really cool.
That's really forward thinking and smart thinking, knowing that it's going to be a long time, that it's a serious thing. You're not going to be able to record and go anywhere for a while. That's a really smart thing. And people that were set up at home had a jump start on that but even better, you have an engineer and somebody that knows you and has worked with you and can work remotely. That's really great.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of fun doing it. I mean, it's when, something. I've actually been working on my own stuff as well. I mean, I've been working on an album for about 10 years, so so we've been doing little bits here and little bits there, and I just sort of actually got down to this part where I needed to do a couple of vocals, and I was kind of set up to do the vocals, and then there was the whole thing just went completely crazy, and it's just too much of a risk. Sometimes you just got to be patient and just wait for it. But it will get done, but just not now. That's all.
Right. That's awesome. Now, back in the early days, you were originally from Brighton, England.
Yes.
You grew up there, and you were, I think I was reading, at age 3, you began tap dancing. Was it your grandmother that encouraged you?
Yeah, my grandmother. My grandmother was like a huge Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly fan, and she used to take me to movies and stuff to see all these musicals and things, and she wanted me to be. She wanted me. I used to sit in my high chair and I'd like bang with a spoon and listening to music on the radio. We didn't have TV back then; we just had radio. It was the dark ages. When you tell young people about it, they say you didn't have TV. It's like, no, we used to listen to the radio, and it's like well, and we never had a phone either. Yeah, and it was like, you didn't have a phone. How could you live without a phone? It's like, well, actually, quite well. When we wanted to see somebody, we sort of go around there, and if anybody wanted to get hold of you urgently, the best that they could do was send a telegram. To get your address and send you a telegram. And it was always an exciting moment when a telegram arrived. You said, whoa, what's this about?
Wow.
So that was they sent me. I used to sit there and listen to the radio and bang my spoon to the music, and they said, oh, he's banging his spoon in time, and he hasn't done it once, he's done it a few times. So we got to do something with him. My grandmother said, let's take him tap dancing lessons, and so they took me to tap dancing lessons.
That's awesome.
I was pretty good at it.
I bet. Has it been a while since you've tap danced?
It's been a long time, and I can't tap dance. My knee doesn't let me tap dance now.
No.
I don't know if it's my knee or my weight that doesn't allow me to tap dance. But I mean, I remember how to do it. In here, I could do it. It was just physically, 70.
Yes. That's amazing. Was there an instance when you were young, when you saw some music or you saw or heard a band that this was what you wanted to do, specifically just playing music and being a drummer? Was there one time that struck you?
Absolutely. I remember I was very young. I was probably maybe 4 or 5, and my parents took me. My mother and my grandmother. When I say my parents, it's my mother and my grandmother. They took me to the local theatre. Called the Hippodrome, which is a local sort of vaudeville theatre where they'd have act number 1. They come out with the board, and there was act number 1, and act number 1 would come out, and the comedian or something. Act number 2, the juggler, and all the way up to the headliners. Where the headliners with this close harmony gospel band, 5 guys. They called themselves the Deep River Boys, and they were from New York, and they had a Radio Luxembourg show that was very popular in England, and they could actually come to England and headline in these theatres. And my parents took me down to see them, and I'd never heard music like that before.
Wow.
And I just remember it moved me so much that I got up and I just started moving, just started dancing, and everything. Lucky black cat, da, 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 on the mat, lucky black cat, all that sort of stuff, and awesome. and it just and I was sitting there, and I was this little kid, and then the people in the audience were like looking over and going, check out that little kid, the only black kid for miles around in town, and I was just sitting there, just loved digging on it. And then they they actually sent out for me to come back and meet the guys in person, and every time after that, when they came back to Brighton, we go and see them, and they actually came to my house once, and my grandmother prepared steaks for these guys, and they were really lovely gentlemen. Yeah.
That is a life-changing thing when music moves you and you see it in person.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing was that when I remember, when I saw them, I'd never seen black people before. We did, and I didn't really. It never really came up that I was black. I mean, I was a kid in school, and there's a photograph in my house of me sitting watching a Punch and Judy show with all the other kids, and we were all just sitting there watching the show, and it never came up with the kids, and it never came up with me that I was any different to anybody else. I was just another kid, Yep. And I saw these guys, and I'd never seen guys. They were big. They were like, back in those days, somebody 6 foot tall was a giant. It was not so much now. They're kind of average now, but back then everybody was smaller. I used to, 6 foot guy. I remember walking along. Harry Douglas was a 6 foot tall black man, and he had hold of my hand, and he walked down the beach. He took me took a walk along the beach, and my grandmother was showing him around the town, and he's such a gentleman. And I remember looking up at this guy. He seemed like he was like a mile high.
Wow.
And so I remember saying to these guys, I said to my grandma, I said, what are these guys? What do you call these guys? They're different color. He said, they're called color people. Yeah, that was polite back then.
Right.
So I remember saying to Harry Douglas, I wish I could be colored like you. And Harry was a very, very wise man. And he said to me, he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cast a spell tonight. And when you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, go take a look in the mirror, and you see you're the same color as I am when you wake up. Okay, couldn't wait to go to bed, Little kid, went to bed, woke up, looked in the mirror. Yeah, it worked. Fine. And that was about it. And just moved on and just kept going, It's like,
wow.
That was it.
That is incredible. Who was the first drummer that you saw? Do you remember?
I think the very first guy that I saw was a guy, I don't even know his name. He played in the local. There was because in the ballrooms, now you have disc jockeys and stuff, but before, in those days, you'd have like a ballroom band, an orchestra, with the horns and everything, and so the local guy at the Regent Ballroom, I had a photograph taken with this guy at his drum kit, and when I was little, and so he was probably the first one, but I never really paid that much attention to it. I mean, he was just a drummer, and they put me with the drummer and take a photograph with him. But the first time that I actually saw how the drums were played was whoever was the pit drummer in Brighton, and in the pit. I mean, I was just 12 years old. The Beatles had started, Rolling Stones and stuff had already started, 62. And I was, hey, honey.
Hi.
She's off.
I'm off to work.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good interview.
Right. That's my fiance. I can't say girlfriend anymore. I proposed to her.
Oh, right. Congratulations.
So, yeah. So, yeah. So I was up on I got hired into this kids chorus to play in there. To sing and dance in this kids chorus, a guy named Max Bygraves, who was a big star in England. Yeah, and we were doing this thing, the twist. All the little kids were all on the stage doing the twist, and I looked down in the orchestra pit and I saw the drummer going, and I said, oh, he's using one hand different to the other. Let me see if I can do that. So I went upstairs and I just kept practicing, kept looking down there and seeing him, and I finally did that, and then sort of added my feet to it, and finally got to figure out how. So my first stumbling motor skills of playing the drums, but I did know a song. I did know I didn't know
Right.
what a song was.
How old would you have been?
I was 12.
You were 12. Wow.
Mm.
That's unbelievable. Now, you saw Manfred Mann, was it? I read a story. Manfred
Yeah.
Mann came and played. And then
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, shortly after the summer show finished, I mean, I went back to being a little kid again, and another, you know, and I used to go dancing at this ballroom, the Regent Ballroom in Brighton, and they used to have at night they'd have like shows and stuff. You know, sometimes they'd have bands that would come in, and you know, but in the Saturday mornings they had a thing for young kids. Parents could drop off the kids, go do the shopping. They knew where their kids were, and
Yep.
you know, we'd all be acting like little adults in the dance club, going asking girls to dance. And we used to get to dance with all these girls a lot, but you know, but that was about it. There was no romance would happen to us like would happen to James Bond. We'd see the movie, you know, they didn't really want anything to do with us at all.
Yeah.
But Manfred Mann showed up to play. They were going to play that evening, so they did a sound check, and for us little kids, you know, and they came out and they played a few songs, and every girl in the place just went berserk. You know, I mean, they were screaming and fainting, and you know, and I said to my friends, "Hey, you know, we're in the wrong business here. We need to start a band." And that was it. That was my motivation. No artistic motivation at all whatsoever. I just wanted to meet girls and have girls scream at me, which they did, and they have done, and continue to do so. She screams at me quite often. Yeah.
Steve, take out the garbage.
Exactly.
Oh,
Stop playing with the dog.
So what kind of playing, when did you get a drum kit, and what kind of playing were you doing once you did get some drums?
Well, I don't know why. For some reason, my grandmother gave me a drum for Christmas. She gave me a snare drum. It was a big old snare drum, something like a Radio King, but it wasn't a Radio King. It wasn't that good. And it was a real big, deep one. And I kind of liked the skinny ones, you know, the skinny snare drums.
Yeah.
And so I had that drum, and I just sort of bash around on it and play along with the music and stuff. And a little toy drum kit from Woolworths, terrible, like little tin cymbals that I could, you know, just a mess. It was awful. And then this one of the guys that I used to play with had a real guitar and a real amp, and he used to hang out at the music stores with the older musicians, with the older guys. He was about my age, and he was hanging out at this music store one day, and this bunch of guys walked in there, and they said, you know, that their drummer was sick, and I think it was Mr. Needham's music store off of London Road that they were hanging out in there. And they said, asked him if he knew any drummers, and he said, I don't know any. And they said, well, our drummers going to have like a surgery. I think he was having his appendix out or something. They had a gig, and they needed somebody to fill in the gig. And so my little friend, he used to hang out in there and just sort of try and hang out, you know, 12-year-old trying to hang out with 18-year-olds. But he was sort of qualified because he had a real guitar. He said, you know, I got a friend that plays the drums. And they said, who's that? He said, well, they're just a friend of mine, Steve Ferrone. He's a black guy. And then they were a blues band, right? So they fancied themselves as a blues band. So they said, well, why don't you tell him I come over this address tonight, like, you know, 5 o'clock, and we'll try him out.
Wow.
And so my friend came round to my house and said, oh no, I ran into these big kids, and they're looking for a drummer to play a gig. Their drummer's sick and everything. And so they, you know, I gave me the address, and you know, I went over there, and I was terrified because 18-year-olds, they didn't really like 12-year-olds too much.
Right.
You know, 18-year-olds would just sort of, 12-year-old, they just give us a clip round the ear and get out of my way. You know, I'm 18, kids. And that was kind of what you got handed down. When I got to be 18, I could do that to a 12-year-old too. You know, so I was just waiting my turn, So I go, I wander in there, and there's these guys, and I sit down and I start playing, and they say, oh, okay, you know, we got a gig at a youth club, and you can come and play at that youth club gig with us. And I went there, and I played at the youth club, and at one point the power all blew out, so I was just sitting there. So I played this little sort of sort of wipeout sort of drum solo that and then when their drummer came out of hospital, he said to him, we got a new drummer. We got this other guy we like, and it was me.
That's awesome.
Which made me terrified because he was 18-year-old too, and if I'd stolen his job as a drummer, could have been nasty for me.
That's incredible. And you were just learning by ear, or you were emulating and learning on just on your own at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the thing was simple. It was. I knew about songs because I tap danced to songs, to standards since I was 3. I knew I could learn a song in a heartbeat. I mean, I go and I went to West Side Story. It took me about 5 seconds to learn. And all the dynamics that went in it, because there's dynamics in tap dancing too. You don't just go clack, 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 clack. This is what we called light and shade. What they call dynamics nowadays is part of tap dancing. There's an introduction. There's the verse, and then there's the bridge to the chorus, and then there's the chorus, and that's the dynamic of rhythmically does that with tap dancing. So I didn't have any. So I used to listen to these songs, and then it was like, well, how do I do that to that? And I'd never really listened to the drum parts, but I'd listen to the song and figure out how I could do that with my skills, how I could play the song. The second song I learned to play was Take 5.
Really?
Like, wow, what the hell is that? I never heard that. What is that? And it made perfect sense to listen to it, but it wasn't 4/4. When you listen to it, and that's the whole thing really about any song. It's not about whether you can play in 16/52 or whatever time signature. It's like how can you make that thing feel like everybody understands it, and make everybody understand it. Even the person who can't count up that much can sit there and understand Take 5.
So you've always been song oriented that way.
Yeah. It's like I always listened to the song, and I played the song. Just usually played the song. I mean, sometimes the guys say, "When actually there's a different part to that," and then I have to have a listen to what that part is, and then I figure out what that is, and then do that. But I always try to own it. I always try to feel it, to grab the essence of that song, and then in some way contribute to it. Not just sit there and copy and paste. That's not what you want me for.
And it's funny, drummers are known as either you've got the chops or you're a groove drummer, but you've had such tremendous success, probably because you play great stuff for songs. It's like the song to you comes first rather than thinking about what cool drum thing am I going to do in this song.
If I start thinking about something when I'm playing, and I start thinking ahead about there's that feel coming up, I don't play anything. I just leave it. There's awesome. too much here.
Drummers, listen, please.
No,
please.
not for me.
Wow. But you went and did like a residency at a conservatory in Nice where you played at a casino, I believe, and then you were teaching modern drums. How did that fill in your abilities?
Well, it was because these kids that I was teaching, they'd been reading since they were 3 or 4, right? I mean, they'd learned their instrument. They'd learned their instruments through music, through reading music.
Okay. So
they could read anything, right?
Yeah.
But and the drums that they taught them were classical drums. Bing bong bong, ding ding, dum gong 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 gong, right? Orchestral stuff. And but they didn't know how to play like I don't know, Billy Cobham or Bernard Purdie or Ginger Baker or whoever, Ringo. or any Charlie Watts, whoever was around at that time. They didn't know how to do that, and that's that. And so they asked me to teach them to play modern drums, and I said, well, I don't read. They said, well, they said, we'll put you in the solfege class, and that's how you'll come to school, and we'll teach you to read music and to decipher a chart. Said, okay. So I got these kids, and then I'd stumble through trying to write out like an exercise for them, something for them to play. And they'd say, oh, no, Mr. Ferrone, it's written like this. Okay. And in return, I got this education from those kids that was incredible. I mean, and they give me like a little bit of money. I think it was like 10 francs or something like that for an hour. It was nothing. But it was, for me, it was great. It was like, go and buy steak frites money, or go buy a bottle of wine money, go sit on the beach with a pan bagnard, and that was what I did, and I did that, and I taught, and I played at night in the casino, and so all I did was play, eat, sleep, and drink drums all day, all night,
Yeah.
Except in the really late, early hours of the morning when I would drive to Saint-Tropez and go sit on the dock when the coffee bar just opened, and I'd sit there and I'd drink coffee and wait for the parties to finish on the boats. And there was all these girls there were girls that like came off of their boyfriend had gone off with some other girl, or their girlfriend was gone off with one of the guys on the boat, and they didn't want to, and they came off, and they were kind of sad. And they came off the boat and, I've been left alone. And, my boyfriend left me. Oh no, they're upset. And they'd find me sitting on the dock. Hi, how are you? Are you okay? Are you okay? You seem upset. Why don't you come and have a cup of coffee with me?
You dog.
Fishing.
11. In Saint-Tropez. Fishing in Saint-Tropez.
Yeah, I had 3 wonderful summers there. 3 wonderful summers and 3 wonderful winters in the south of France. I love the south of France.
It sounds like the conservatory was.
And I was 21. I was 21. What the hell? God, it was perfect.
That's what you're supposed to do at 21.
Absolutely. Enjoy yourself.
Now
I'm supposed to do it at 72, and that's what I do. I just enjoy myself and have a great time.
I'm happy for you. Dinah actually asked a question here. Ask about the Brighton Walk of Fame Award. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, that was incredible. They have a Walk of Fame in Brighton, and I've been, whenever I used to go there, I go down and visit my mother when she lived there, and my cousin and stuff, and usually end up taking a walk along the beach. Go out to the marina. They got a Walk of Fame out there, and then they started to do the music Walk of Fame on the Palace Pier, and they had all these musicians up there that weren't from Brighton, basically. So I started. What the hell is it? I talked to my cousin. My cousin said, I'm going to have a look into this, because you at least have done enough stuff that you should be down there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So then he looked around and he found this guy. Who was in charge of it, and he'd written to him a couple of times about being on there, but about me being on there. And got one sort of cursory answer, and then nothing, and so I he told me. I said, well, who is this guy? And he gave me the name of this guy, and I went on. Google can come in very handy. So I go in there and I Google him, and I look and I see, oh, he worked with this friend of mine, Stephen Kalnikov, who's a poet. So I call up Stephen. I say, do you know this guy? I think his name's David. Do you know this guy? And he said, oh, yeah, I've written songs with him and everything. I said, well, he's in charge of that Walk of Fame in Brighton, and I'm not in it. then they got all these people, and my family's going berserk, trying to get his. And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." And so, next thing you know, I get a phone call from David. David, I think his name's David. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. It's terrible remembering those. And they inducted me into the Rock Walk of Fame in Brighton, and I actually have the plate here somewhere. I'll find it for you in a second, but yeah. So they put me in there, and I went there, and Fred Gretsch showed up and surprised me.
Wow.
Yeah, and my whole family was there. People from Ireland, my family from Ireland, my family from Brighton. And Julia came, and we had this wonderful photograph of everybody. Hamish Stewart came from the Average White Band.
Wow!
And we went on the pier, and we did a fantastic. I bought fish and chips for everybody. Ooh. I have 500 pounds worth of fish and chips. Fish and chips, boy, they were good too.
I bet
it was absolutely fantastic. Let's see if I can. Where are these photos? I think it's in my favorites. But a great day was had by everybody. Really, it was just it was incredible. And I can let's see if I can.
How long ago was that, Steve?
I think it was 2018, maybe. Okay. It may have been 2018. Yeah. Oh, there you go. The wrong way. I always go the wrong way. That's my.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, that's not my entire family, but it's pretty much close to it. And there's one other black guy at the back there, Ruben, and he's married to my cousin's daughter. And I always say to him, wow. Ruben, I trailblaze these people for you. You wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for me. Let me just find because I'm pretty proud of this thing. I'll just find.
Yeah, for sure.
It's right here somewhere. Where are you? Ah.
This is awesome. It's like you're there. Appreciate everybody tuning in and asking some questions. Wow, that is cool.
Let me see.
Wow. Yep, there you go. That is beautiful. The Brighton Palace Pier, Steve Ferrone. Oh, man. Oh, that's wonderful. Lena says that Logan loved the fish and chips. Logan loved the fish and chips.
Let me get a plug back in again now.
Oh, sorry.
Hello. Hi,
sorry. Lena was saying that Logan loved the fish and chips.
Yeah, Logan was there. Yeah, Logan showed up and oh god, it was just so much fun. We had just such a wonderful time there with everybody, and just hanging out on the pier. It was a beautiful day, and it was a shame my mother passed away. She passed away in 2008, but it would have been wonderful if she could have been there. She would have been so proud, and
she was there in spirit, I'm sure. And
absolutely,
very proud of her son. That's for sure. Man, you have done. I was looking. While I like to research my guests pretty extensively, and I didn't realize that you had played with so many different things and so many different artists from the very beginning. What prepared you to play with Brian Auger and go tour the United States playing that crazy jazzy kind of, I don't want to say fusion-y music, but jazz rock kind of stuff?
He's a jazz rock, yeah. He's definitely a jazz rock guy. Yeah, Brian.
And that seems so different from the way that many of us know you're playing. We didn't realize, and also you were super young then too, and getting your energies out and whatnot. But
young and foolish, foolhardy.
But you still have that great pocket and that great group. So what I'm asking is, like, how did you develop going from a relatively new self-taught drummer to being able to play that music and touring? What was it that propelled you forward? Was it just playing and listening?
Yeah, basically that's it. I mean, I'd listen. I remember Brian Auger. I was a fan of Brian Auger since he had a single out called Red Beans and Rice. I'm still one I got to say this. I don't know if he's here, knows about this, or if his son knows about it. His son Karma is my godson, and Brian is one of the most enthusiastic players. Just a great player. He's 80 years old now. I think 81 maybe.
Yes.
And all I got to do is say to Brian, "You want to play? Where?" Not even when. He's ready right then. He's just an incredible fellow. So I was a fan of his for some time before that, but he came out with this. He came out with this album. I think it was called Straight Ahead. That was really, really, really cool. And I mean, it was still very, very groove oriented for me.
Right.
It's kind of like, if it doesn't groove, it doesn't really say it. I mean, you can have things with some mixed measures and stuff in there, but in between that, it's, you can have some stuff that's a little bit tricky, but it still has to groove. It still has to have a pocket for me. It still has to have. So I remember played with this band called French Toast. It was me and Will Lee. Actually, it was Anthony Jackson. And then Will Lee came along, and they did some really, really difficult music. I mean, when Anthony came around, Anthony was the first bass player with them, and he said to me, "This is the most difficult music I've ever played." He said that, and I'm like, Anthony saying something is difficult. It's like it's difficult. So I had to woodshed. I woodshedded that music and found a way. I found a way to play it, but they started to get more and more into some more avant-garde stuff that just didn't sit with me. And I remember saying, I don't really want to play this. It's not really what I do. And Peter Gordon, who's the French horn player, the band leader, he said, "Look, we're trying to get beyond the groove," and Will Lee and I just burst out laughing. It's like there is for me. There is nothing behind that, But I mean, there's guys that, like I say when I do drum clinics, if you want to go and see a drum clinic where guys playing stuff that's impossible, you can go and do that. But if you're sitting there and you say, "I could never do that," right? Then you can do what I do if you sit down and just concentrate on your time and playing with other people. You can do what I do, and you can play the drums, and you can have a lot of fun doing it. So there's guys that work really, really hard, and they really study their stuff, and they play amazing stuff. And so there's guys that are really good at it. One of them is Dave Weckl, and Dave Weckl took that seat and did a great job of playing that stuff. But for me, it's just not. It's not really for me. It's not really for me to do that. I don't. It's not fun for me to do. But I mean, it's not that I don't like a challenge. I mean, Osnoy. I listen to Osnoy's music, and that's really hard, to do too. I mean, if I listen to it, and it's like, Jesus, that stuff is ridiculous. I don't even know how they figure out where they are. And then Osnoy calls me up, and Steve, he said, "I'm playing a gig in Los Angeles. Will you come play with me?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Why not?" I said, "Because your music is too difficult." And he said, "No, it isn't. It's easy." I said, "Well, I don't know what planet." I mean, he's Israeli, right? He's Israeli, so I don't know what they think is simple over there. But where I come from, that's like really difficult stuff that you do. So anyway, he talked me into. I said, "Okay, send it to us." But I'm gonna have to. I had time, and I got my studio here, and he gave it to me, and I came in and I woodshedded, and he sent me charts, and sometimes that stuff is like, when I look at it, it doesn't make any sense.
Right?
Like that's not what I'm hearing. And so he had to come out a few days early and come over here and help me with the bits that I didn't get. And then finally I learned it, and now I know it. I don't even have to think about it. I have to put a chart in front of me. I know that those songs, and it's really fun to do. But there is, he's such a great writer as well. There's a way that I can reconcile that stuff. So I don't mind the challenge, but I need to have a minute to do it. And I'm not like Vinny. Vinny can just sit down and he can read, just sit. It's like, how the hell do you do that? Vinny's just incredible. Just amazing.
Yes, and with a great groove as well. Now,
Absolutely.
people always mention, when they mention your name, they always mention the Average White Band, even though you haven't played in that band. You've played in was it 360? What's like an offshoot of that?
That was an offshoot of Average White Band,
which is really neat too. I was listening to
I played with Average White Band for years, but
you're always. What did you learn? What did you gain from playing with Average White Band? What was the big takeaway from that gig?
Well, we all used to listen to the same music growing up. Robbie McIntosh, the original drummer, was a friend of mine, and that's how I met the band, was through Robbie. And we used to listen. I mean, they were all from up north, from Scotland, and I was from about as far south as you could get, and Brighton, and we used to listen to the same music. We used to love listening to Motown and Stax and blues. All these blues artists that used to come through, we used to listen to that a lot. The Chuck Berry we go and see when he came through town, and we loved that music. We all did the same stuff, like get a little transistor radio and get underneath the sheets and listen to it so the parents couldn't hear it. Listen to radio, tune in Radio Luxembourg so that we could hear a song.
Wow.
Wait to hear one song, and we all did the same stuff. So we had a connection through music. And funnily enough, it was the same with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. When getting to know Tom and Mike and Benmont, when Mike and Tom and I are the same age. We were 70. To Benmont's a little younger, but Tom and I Tom would have been 70,
right?
We used to listen to the same music. We used to listen to the same music and try and make that sound. Try to make songs like that, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're successful. The thrill of hearing yourself on the radio. Oh, we got on the radio. They're playing us on the radio. Still is a thrill to hear yourself on the radio. It's nice.
I remember being a little kid and hearing Pick Up the Pieces, and that's Robbie on that. You were on Cut the Cake on Forward.
I did the live version of Pick Up the Pieces.
And of course, I was watching the making of The Burning for Buddy. I was watching that on YouTube, and I'd forgotten that there's a lot of interjections with you talking about Buddy with your baseball cap on back when seeing him at Ronnie Scott saying about Buddy was snarly. It was but it was a really cool take on playing that tune with the Buddy Rich Big Band as well.
It was good, wasn't it? And I changed it. I mean, it was an Arif Mardin. It was an Arif Mardin an arrangement.
Yeah.
And that band was so good. I did something at the end of it. I think I just said to them, can we put like a couple of repeats around and that was just something that I felt like doing, and I asked them to write it in. They wrote it in, played it like they'd been playing it for years.
That's really cool. I remember that now. Like this tag of that a bunch of times. That was neat. Now, Arif Mardin was very instrumental. He was a mentor to you,
yes,
I believe, in getting you started off in the session scene in the New York studios. What did he see in you that prompted him to help you out?
Well, I mean, what happened? I went there to start recording "Cut the Cake" with Average White Band, and I'm gonna shoot you right down. Another call. I was there recording with Average White Band, and because of being in school and learning how to read somewhat, when it came up, when there was something that they liked, we got into a groove of something, and then there was some more arrangements stuff to do, talking about what the arrangement. I'd notate what it was so that I wouldn't forget it, and Arif noticed that, and after we finished recording "Cut the Cake," he said, "Listen, I noticed that you read somewhat," and he said, "Would you like to do some sessions for me?"
Wow.
I said, wow, yeah, I'd love to, you know. And that's when I started to to get to know, you know, Will Lee, the Brecker Brothers, Don Gronick, you know, the Marcus Millers, and
Unbelievable.
Joe Caro. I mean, you know, David Spinoza, all these
Right.
incredible, Richard T, all these incredible New York musicians. You know, Arif knew that I could groove. That's what he wanted, you know. But I got to learn what worked and what didn't work. I mean, with and how to do things, and stuff that they put in front of me that I didn't understand. I could turn around and ask them, what's that? You know, and they'd tell me what it was, and it was just up to me to remember it then.
Right.
But I say that I went through the school. Arif Mardin gave me the opportunity to learn all this stuff, and you know, really gave me my head. But the musicians of 802 were the guys that taught me what wouldn't work, and what was great. You know, I'd just play something and be not too sure about it, and that, man, listen to that. That's cool. Or that was that. You won't be playing that again, will you?
Yeah.
So I went to this great school of the New York local 802.
What a time!
Yeah, it was incredible, and the you know, Arif was really innovative as far as like recording techniques, and you know, I remember when we first started doing with the Screedy Politi with just drums.
Yeah.
Just drums and a click track and a drum machine that played like a little bit of a thing in there, and I sat there and I just started to click, and I mean, Jason Casaro was the engineer on that, and he had like mics all over the place, triggering syndromes. He had half of the room going through a harmonizer. I mean, it was just all drums, like every fader but one on the
Wow.
on the desk at a power station was drums, and
That's awesome.
And it was huge, and in the big room one in power station, and it just room was the sound was. But I mean, I could cruise. I mean, I just played what they had in front of me, and the reef was like, no, you know, you're not hitting the drums hard enough. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're kind of cruising there, you know. I need you to have the energy that you have when you play, you know. And I'm like, well, you know, I mean, I'm just only me and a click, and that's not even a song. It's just me and a click. This drum bake when it comes up every once. He said, you got to hit the drums harder. I said, well, how am I going to do that? And at the time, you know, Clive Davis at Arista Records was really messing with Average White Band. It was kind of like coming to the point where it was over. We didn't want to do this and didn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And Arif knew that I wasn't particularly a big fan of Clive's, you know, and he said to me, he said, why don't you think of Clive Davis's face on the drums? It's like, oh, okay, I can do that. And so that was where the Screedy Politi drum sound came from, out of resentment.
I could have sworn that was a programmed drum groove, and I remember it being, you know, 18 years old listening.
You're talking to it.
I know.
What made you think that it was a programmed drum groove was that I had a Simmons hi-hat, and I overdubbed the Simmons hi-hat to it. So it sounded somewhat like a drum machine.
Had you worked with a click before you got to the studios?
You know, no, never done it before.
But
I
you
mean,
could. You just could.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a bit of resentment to the click. I mean, you know, when I first started when they first started like making me play with the click, it was like, why? You know, I mean, was something wrong? There's nothing wrong with my time. I've got really good time. You know, I can be very consistent with time.
Yeah.
And well, we want to cut it in case we want to cut it. You know, and I'm like, well, you know, songs breathe. They, you know, chorus lifts up just a little bit. It usually goes back to the verse again. You know, no, they wanted to. That was, and everybody, even including Arif, would turn around and say, well, you know, Steve, this is the way the business is going. And I'm like, screw the business. You know, I mean, you know, I've worked hard at my tempo. Yeah. And I had this, I was really getting this attitude. I mean, every time I came up to a session now, it was like, maybe play with the click. I came out here to Los Angeles and I was working all day in the studio and then we playing with this bloody click all day. You know, I'm sitting in there just like, well, next song. And then Jeff Porcaro was playing at the Baked Potato that night, and I went and I went over and I saw Jeff, and Jeff said, "Hey," he said, "What?" He said, "You want to play?" And I said, "No, I've been working all day." He said, "You're gonna play. I'm gonna make you play. You gotta come and play." So we were sitting there and we were talking, and he said, "You know, how was your day?" I said, "Well, I've been playing with a bloody click." And just Jeff was sat there with his, you know, with his glasses, like he used to sit there with his glasses all shiny, kind of like this now. He'd have his shiny guy, that shit-eating grin on his face. And he looked at me and he said, "So, you have a problem playing with the click?" And I said, "No, it's easy. It's so easy to play with that thing." And he said, "Take the money." It's like, I never thought of it that way. So it was like, okay, fine. If that's what they want, I'll just do it.
Wise man.
Yeah.
Wise man. But both you could have probably done most of those sessions without a click as long as you had an idea of a starting tempo, but you just did it because you had to do it. Are there any recordings that you did that came out differently than what you might have expected? Maybe better or worse? Like once you heard the final, you're like, that's the song? Or
well, yeah, I mean, I was really surprised that they picked "You Don't Know How It Feels" for the first single of Wildflowers.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a good song. It was the first song I cut with them, you know. So I didn't really feel, I thought, you know, that we got into playing some more stuff that was, you know, like "You Wreck Me" was turned out to be a huge radio hit anyway. You know? But when it came out, I was surprised. A friend of mine, Dave Santos, who was a bass player, lives in Nashville. He called me up and he said, "Is that you? Is that you playing on that Petty single that You Don't Know How It Feels?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's driving me crazy. There's no crash cymbals on it." And then I realized that when we about the third take into it, Rick came into the room and because they had like room mics up and stuff, and it was only me and Tom and Mike that were in the studio. Rick came into the. He said, "You know," he said, "I'm having a problem with the sound in the studio with the room sound of those cymbals. They're driving me crazy." And I said, "Well, I said, I'll cut it without doing any crashes. I'll just use the hi-hat and then I'll overdub the crashes afterwards." And then we did a pass at it, and then he came in. He said, "Oh, we got it under control. Just, you know, you can just like play it normal now." And we spent the rest of the day playing it, and they made little adjustments here or there and what have you. But the one that they used was track 3, take 3, and you know.
That's unbelievable.
But when they said that was the single, I was kind of because it didn't really, it wasn't really because it, and I think maybe that whole album was a little bit different from what I would. I mean, there was a lot of stuff on there that when I was that didn't sound very Tom Petty-ish, like I was used to hearing.
Right.
You know. And you know, Tom was just such an innovator. He never did same thing twice. You know, he just had this way of writing great songs, and it was it just didn't seem like a regular sort of Tom Petty album to me when I But over the years, I mean, there were a couple of times that we'd start a song, and I'd say, "Oh, this sounds like him. This is in the Tom Petty. Okay, now we're in Tom Petty world." And we get halfway through it, and he would say, "Robert DeLeo." He's like, hope he likes what I played for him last night. He would say, we've been here before.
Wow.
Let's move on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is like, and it's funny because in 2017, when we were getting ready to when he was getting ready to finish up doing this Wildflowers and All the Rest album, he said, I found these songs. It's a hit song, and we didn't use it on the album. So I'm going to do an accompanying album for the re-release Wildflowers, 25th anniversary, and do this accompanying album for it with the stuff that we didn't play, that we didn't put on. We didn't put, and it was supposed to be a double album. It was incredible.
He was absolutely an innovator and such a massive career, and it must have been such a hard thing to have tried to recover from losing your friend the way that things. I'm glad that you finished the tour at least, but I think we all know that he shouldn't have probably gone out and should have had, but he didn't want to let the fans down. I think that was kind of the thing, right?
Nope, didn't want to let the fans down. It wasn't. He didn't want to let the fans down. He didn't want to let the guys that worked for him down. The crew. He knew that there was a lot of people, but basically we could have done it later. But that was Tom. He was a wonderful, wonderful man, and I really miss him a lot as a friend.
Yeah, I believe it. I love watching a lot of YouTube things, and I have a friend on here who's watching now, my friend Rocky, who is a massive Tom fan and a massive Steve Ferrone fan as well, and just absolutely adores. One of my questions I wanted to ask was the George Harrison tribute when Prince played at that. And I read the Rolling Stone interview that you did, which is absolutely unbelievable. I've read it a few times, and I watched at the end of the video when Prince throws his guitar up in the air, and I showed my wife. I'm like, Kim, where did the guitar go? She's like, somebody obviously caught it, and I'm like, well, yeah, but that was hilarious. But
we had no idea. We had no idea that was that. It was a show that Prince put on, really not for the audience, but it was more for us. I mean, it started off like he came walking across the stage. He started playing this solo, which is just he just went for it. I mean, we didn't even do it at the sound check.
Right.
Somebody else played it, and Tom just walked up to him at the end of the sound check and said, "Well, you take that solo. You take that last solo and just do your thing, right?" And then he lit into this solo, and it was like, okay, this is fun. And we're sitting up there and we're just playing. And he came walking across the stage, turns his back to the audience with us, and falls off the stage. And everybody was, oh, yeah. Prince just fell off the stage, and he had this great big guy in the audience who caught him and pushed him back up, and then we all started laughing. It's that guy. It was more for us than it was for the audience, And then he goes over to the end, finishes the song, big, takes it off, throws it up in the air, and walks off with his little head going like this. and we're all sitting there and we look, and then it took us a minute. It took us a minute to realize it was like, where'd the fucking guitar go? And then we never saw him again. He just disappeared.
And he said, when you introduced yourself, he turns to you and said, "I know who you are."
Yeah.
You played on the Shaka Khan.
Well, yeah, I thought he knew me because I played on "I Feel for You," and that was a French song. And then when I went back over and sat down, and Winwood was like, Stevie Winwood was like, what was he like? Was he okay? And I said, yeah, it was fine. You should go over and say hello to him. He's a nice guy. And and all of a sudden I hear dig-a-doo, 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 the guitar riff from Schoolboy Crush from Average White Band.
Okay.
And I co-wrote that with the guys, so my song. and I hear that, and I thought, who's doing that, and I thought maybe one of the guys from Letterman Band. Something, I look across the stage and Prince is looking right at me, just playing, and I said, you do know who I am, that was incredible.
That is unbelievable. Oh man.
Yeah.
We have a question here. Do you have, or did the Tom Petty Band or Tom have a favorite song to play either on tour or at a concert? What were some of the favorite songs that you all really enjoyed playing?
Well, one of Tom's favorite songs was one that he did very rarely, that he would do on his own, which was Angel Dream from She's the One. That was one of his favorite songs ever. Trying to pick a favorite Tom Petty song to play is like saying, who's your favorite bass player when you've been playing with, let's start with Ron Blair, and then we go Nathan Eads, Marcus Miller,
I know, Will
Lee, Anthony Jackson, and on and on and on and on. It's like, okay, Jaco Pastorius, pick one. You pick one, because I can't, and so picking a favorite Tom Petty song is really difficult thing to do. I really like Angel Dream too, and I never played on it. That was Kurt Biscara that played on it on She's the One.
Oh wow, that's right too. Yeah, another great.
But I think everybody has a song, a Tom Petty song that resonates with them, and You Wreck Me resonates with me because I used to sit in the car with my kids and we would head back listening to You Wreck Me. And, I love that. And that's always been a special song for me and Jason and Becky, and two of my kids, anyways, the two that I raised, and wonderful. we always loved that song. But it's the thing was that I can say about Tom. When I first started with the band, I was given a list of songs that we were going to do on the tour. Now I knew who Tom Petty was, but I wasn't really deep into Tom Petty.
Right.
Tom Petty songs, and we get to Chicago and we're playing, where the Bulls, where the arena where the Bulls play. I forget what they call it. United Center, I think it's called. And we were playing in the United Center in Chicago, and we finished the show and we come off. And Tom looks at me and he says, "Do you know Breakdown?"
Right.
No, it wasn't on the list. He said, "Oh." He says, "Okay. You go boom, jack, boom, chka, boom, ba, boom, chka. They go crazy, follow me." And that was it. And let's go on the stage.
That's the best. And
that was the rehearsal of Breakdown. They just led me through it. I just followed, when he wanted to break it down, I break it down. When here comes the chorus, I could kind of feel my way through it as well, and
that's cool.
And just sort of stayed within that thing, and then that was our rehearsal. So I don't know. There were so many stories about playing.
I know,
and I mean, I remember after the first tour, I went to Tom. I'd found out something about my history, my family history.
Mm-hmm.
My father wasn't around when I was growing up. I was raised by my mom, my grandma, and nobody ever wanted to talk about my dad. And then I think I was like 46 or 47 years old, 46 years old, after we finished Wildflowers. And I found out that my father's name wasn't Ferrone. My father's name was Nicholson, and I thought it was. I always thought I was raised thinking I had my father's name. It was like a foundation of mine. Made my legs turn to jelly when I found that out. Wow. I'm furious at my mother for not telling me stuff. It's family stuff. And I walked around in a daze for a couple of days after that one. It was just like such a mind blower, for me. And I went over to see Tom, and he was living in a house over at the end of Sunset Boulevard there, down there by the beach, and he was in the middle of a divorce at that time, and I sat down with him and I said, man, I just found out something that's just been messing with me. And I told him the whole story about it, and he sat there and he just listened to me, and he said, what was your father's real name? I said, Nicholson. He went, Steve Nicholson. Steve Nicholson on drums. That doesn't sound very good. Steve Ferrone on drums sounds really much better. He said, you made that. That's yours. That's your name.
Wow.
And then years later, he called me up and he's like, can you come over to the house? I got this song, and just me and you, we'll just record I'll play bass, and I put down the thing, we'll just play together the song. And we go over there, and it's this song, cursorily listen to his vocal that he's got on there. Title's Looking for Daddy, right? And I'm thinking I was some chick looking for a father or something like that. And then when it's mixed and they send it to me and I listen to it, I'm like, was that about our conversation that we had about, because he used to write stuff down when he'd have a conversation with us. If he heard a line that he would write it, put it in this book.
Yeah.
And I listened to that and I thought, damn, did he write a song about that conversation that we had all those years ago with Wildflowers about my dad? You know? And I think maybe that was Tom's forte, was that everybody had a song, a Tom Petty song, that they thought was written about them, that they felt that he knew what it was like to be them. You don't know how it feels to be me.
Yeah.
Touched thousands of people. Yeah. And he just had a way of doing that was I have no idea whether that was what it was, but it's funny when I listen to that song Looking for Daddy, it always makes me wonder.
What a wise man, though, to really put a perspective on.
He was smart. He was really smart. He was a deep thinker. You wouldn't have thought it to because he was just like a guy, just a Southern guy, Yeah. But he was very deep.
Indeed. We'll wrap things up shortly here. We've been a little while. I'm telling you, I'm enjoying this. I know everybody's enjoying this. I have a question.
I like sitting in my studio.
This is and I can't believe I'm actually sitting here talking to you, and it's really cool for me. My friend Nicholas Lucero's question was, he wanted to know what your process is when you're getting ready to play with a new artist, a new show. What do you like? How do you approach the songs and charts? How do you learn a show? What do you do? What's the process?
Listen. Just listen. New artists, when I do this, I get a new artist every day, right? I get a new, somebody shows up, a new artist, new group of musicians. Everybody has a different guitarist, different keyboard player, and sometimes, Steve, can you come to Italy? Can you come to Japan? Do a record. I go over there and there's a bunch of guys I never met before in my life. And we sit down and we start to make music. You have to listen. Listen to I just listen. Try to understand what they're looking for. Try to understand what they want and then give it to them. And give it to them plus you. Plus a little bit. Own it. Make it yours.
It's wonderful.
And that's this is the thing I feel for the drummers need to, you're not hired to people please. You're hired to bring something to it. Right? You're not the star of the show. The the guy in the front, the artist, the producer. Those are the guys. Those are the guys who know what direction they're looking for. So what you do is you listen to them, and you find it. But don't be afraid to offer. Don't be afraid to say, how about trying it this way? How about can I just try something? And they might fall in love with it, which is great, or they might say, no, let's just go back to the other way, and then it's great too. I mean, the number of years I spent with the Heartbreakers is like, do you think we could do? And I get this look from Mike and Tom would turn, and he just kind of look at me like, is he talking again? Okay, I sit there and say, I do this every album, don't I? I don't know why I do that. And then, after a couple of hours, they say, why don't we just try doing that? And it was what I suggested a couple of hours ago, just like something rhythmically, and I'd say, oh, great idea. Not always, but sometimes that happens.
Yes, I know what you mean. Well, we're just the drummer.
Yeah, humility. You gotta have some humility. You gotta have some humility, and just realize, unless it's your band, they're not there to make you look good. You're there to make them look good.
That's right. We haven't even talked about Gretsch drums since the very beginning, and I can't believe that I haven't.
It's all about Gretsch drums.
It's all about Gretsch drums. I apologize. Now, you played Gretsch drums back in the day with
Average White Band. I started with Average White Band. I found out when I first started playing, I started asking around what the best drum kit was, and Ringo was playing Ludwig. Yeah, Ringo was playing Ludwig, and Charlie Watts was playing Gretsch, and people started to tell me that Gretsch has got it's really the best drum kit that there is out there. And it was years before I get my hands on one, but when I did, it was an instant love affair.
And now, is that white kit getting refurbed now?
Yes.
At the factory?
Yeah, my Average White Band kit is getting refurbished. Yeah. Whew. It's going to come back here brand new. There'll be a little fight that's going to go on between that one there and my Average White Band kit.
Now you played a different brand of drums for many years, and was there ever a time when you were doing a session or playing a gig when you had to play in the studio Gretsch drums, and did you ever think, man, I kind of miss that?
I use Gretsch drums. I use Gretsch drums on the Wildflowers.
That's awesome.
I gotta say, Paul did a great job of making. They did a great job of making drums, but there's a magic that Gretsch has that just can't be beat. And there was one area that they could be beaten in, though. When at one point when I was traveling a lot, and that was in endorsement, having drums all over the world that I needed, and the person that was in charge of Gretsch at that time, I don't even know what company was distributing them, wasn't very very forthcoming with anything, and so it was also Jeff Porcaro who had the same problem. Who used to say, put your Gretsch drums in the studio, and then just play your pearls, and they'll take good care of you. And they did that for about 10 years, and then Fred and Dinah got their business back, and Dinah actually asked me what happened before, and I got to tell her, and she said, I'm so sorry about that. And I said, well, that's just, it wasn't you, it's just the way that things went. And then we started this with this love affair again, with this drum kit, with these drum kits. And I was saying, I got to get a little jazz kit. I got this, and we're at the NAMM show, and I said, I'm going to get one for myself because I want to play it. And she said, well, which one do you want? And I said, I want one like that little birch kit that's down there. And she said, well, you want that one? And I'm like, I'm kind of like tied up with Gretsch here, and I mean with Paul. She said, any drummer that's worth his salt owns a Gretsch drum kit, and that's the truth. And she said, and I want you to have that. Take it. So I walked out of the NAMM show with this drum kit. And people were looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm taking this shit home. I got it home. I set it up and I played it, and I just loved playing it. I just had a ball playing it, and it sort of progressed from there. And it got to the point. It got to the point with me where I had to decide, look, what and being with the Heartbreakers also gave me the ability to be able to take my jumps wherever I needed to, and Gretsch had improved enormously as far as like the servicing part of Gretsch drums around the world.
Absolutely.
And I went to Paul and I said, listen, you guys have done a fantastic job for me, and you had a great product, and I really enjoyed it, but I'm going to go back to Gretsch. And they asked me, they said, are you doing this for money? I said, no, this is not for money. This is for love. I love playing Gretsch drums, and that's just what I love to do. And and in doing that and being that way, they said, well, that's okay, because if you were just doing it for money, it would have pissed us off. They were very, very gracious, and they still are my friends, and I have a great relationship with them, as I've had for years now with Fred and Dinah. They're just family, and
they are.
But I'm really I'm really glad to be where I am and have such wonderful kits as what I've been serviced with. And I tell you, the 1950 Gretsch Broadcaster, I bought that one. That didn't come under the endorsement. I bought that one out of my own money.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Down at Steve Maxwell's drum shop in New York, and that's my baby back there. I love that.
That's beautiful. Where's your broadcaster kit? The Tom Petty, the 40th anniversary kit.
That's actually in the lockup, in the Tom Petty's lockup. It's still there.
That was a really cool unboxing video as well.
Yeah. I love that. It's kind of sat there since I think I played it once when we did a show with Benmont and Mike and myself played with Stephen Stills. It was a benefit, and it came out once. It hasn't been played. That was the first time it was played since Tom passed, since the Hollywood Bowl, and it's been boxed back up ever since. And it's just sitting there, waiting for the Heartbreakers to do something again, maybe.
Yeah, and any talk of anything? Well, we can't obviously, but nothing.
No, nothing on the radar quite yet. That's all. I mean, I hope one day that will happen, because I really miss playing with all those guys. I mean, I played a session here. I played a session with Ben. I played a session with Ron. I played with Mike. All separately. We never actually sat down and played together as a band. There's something magic when we sit down and start to make music together. I mean, I think Mike has a tune on hold for me to go play with the Dirty Knobs, because they're driving. He's got to go play. He's got to go play somewhere in Italy. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. Sit down and play with Mike for a bit,
I love the name, where that came from. I think you've got a pot that so you and you get knobbed. Is that how that goes?
That's right. You go to see a band and you get knobbed.
It's an English thing. It sounds.
And there's nothing like a good knobbing to make you happy in the day.
well, I hope something happens where you were able to come to Toronto again. I actually had a gig, a terrible excuse, and I thought for sure I would see Tom and you, but I had a good gig and I didn't go see Tom in 2016. Oh, and I kicked myself for that. So, but if you're ever in the Toronto area, or if I'm down, I'd love to see you play in person.
Absolutely.
And catch that.
You have my number. You ever come to Los Angeles and come down and visit my drum kits?
And Dave Onania, you remember him? He was with the Blue Man Group. He says to say hello.
All right, cool.
Yes, what a lovely guy and a great player. He says he wasn't sure if you would remember him.
Yes, I do. Yes, absolutely.
He said he was at your place in LA for a little while, and he said to say hello. So, do you have anything on the agenda for this year? You're just visiting grandkids and doing some sessions and.
Well,
Getting engaged?
I just got an email yesterday, um, from Nathan East has a band. We have a band called Band of Brothers, which is a motley crew of guys that are really great players. And we were supposed to go and do I think it was a couple of years ago. Oh, no, last October, we were supposed to go and do a smooth jazz. They call it smooth jazz, but we're not really smooth jazz players. We play this really good sound, good band, and we were going to go and do this cruise down in Tahiti. Well, I just got a call that this could be happening in April. If we all get our shots and everything sort of starts to slow down, then there'll be this cruise in Tahiti. So I'm just going to keep my fingers and the toes and everything else crossed that I can, and then I'll be doing that. And then the things work out for June to do the Mike Campbell Dirty Knob show, and then there's supposed to be some Dire Straits Legacy. Dire Straits Legacy guys talking about doing a gig at the O2 in London in I think it was in May. So
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Horn plays bass in that group. That's always fun to play with him.
Yeah.
But it's in principle, yes, I'll be doing that, but I guess we'll see what happens. I guess I have to live that long. I have to live that long, and it has to be safe for people to be able to go on a cruise or go to a concert or go somewhere. I don't really know, but I mean, am I looking forward to doing that? Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Will I be devastatedly disappointed if we don't? No, I won't, because it'll mean that we won't be getting sick, and we'll be helping other people to stay well. More importantly, helping others to stay well. Yes. That's just what we're doing. I'll keep making music here in the studio and doing my radio show, my new guy show.
Yeah.
I love doing that. I love playing music. I get new music from new artists, and I get to play old music from old artists, and I get to play current music from current artists, and I just really enjoy doing my radio show, putting my show together. I got to put together another one. Actually, I got to start today, and I do that here. My trusty blue microphone. I got this microphone. It's
nice, and you've got that great voice too.
My radio voice.
Yeah, it's really quite nice. It's lovely in my earbuds here, my quad driver earbuds.
Oh baby,
oh, there we go.
You're listening to the Quiet Storm.
I'm glad you didn't say listen to the Dirty Knob. So
you're listening to the Dirty Knobs on Tom Petty Radio.
No, I'm not going to sleep.
Oh baby.
I have one question I've wanted to ask you. Ever since hearing that Al Jarreau song "Says," where did you come up with that drum beat? And I'm trying to play along with that cut here. And thanks very much for making my life
misery.
How did you come up with that?
I just started playing it. They were doing a drum check and everything, and I just started to play. The thing that's really weird is that there's a turnaround.
Yeah.
That I play after the bridge. It's a doom. I play it slowly. Doom da doom da boom ba 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 boom ba 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 ba. And that one gets me every time. That I have to really. I love that thing, and I don't even know where it came from, but it really works, and I find it very difficult to play because I've forgotten how to play it. It's just one of those things that I just played as the song was going down, so
that's the part in that bridge there that I'm like, what is that? That's nice.
Yeah, I started playing it, and Philip Sace, he wrote the song to it. So he started to play this. He just started to play that as I was just playing this thing, and then the next day he came in with the song, and you should have paid me for that.
Tune. It's
you should have paid me for that. You know that, Philly. You should have paid me for that.
Wherever you are.
Oh, I know where he is. He's here somewhere.
We have one. I keep saying one last question, hoping that you'll answer. Friend Ron White ask him what Steve's favorite size kit as far as shell size. Do you like a 24? Do you like a 22? What do you prefer drum kit wise?
Well, what I found is that for like big rock shows, like for Tom Petty or Eric Clapton, a 20. I like a 24-inch kick, 24 by 14.
Wow.
And for like a regular, like this one here, 22 by 14. The only problem that you might have with a 24 by 14 is that if you have the tom rack mounted on the drum, it's going to be a little bit high for you. So with the green kit that I had the tom cut down. It was a shallower tom, so I could get it onto the.
Okay.
With the kit, the 2017 kit, I put it on a DW. The DW make this stand especially for a tom.
Right.
That went on the side. But as you can see, hold on, which way have I got to go? This way.
There you go.
I used to have that on this kit, but I went back to using the rail.
Yeah.
I like the rail. I just like. I mean, I had it on a stand, and then I just there's too much stuff here, So I just pulled the rail up and tightened it up, and I put it back on the rail, and it just sits there, and it's just sounds beautiful.
What are the drum heads of choice, Steve?
Coated Remo coated ambassadors, top and bottom on the tom-toms. So and the other thing about this this drum kit is that the toms don't have legs. They sit in a cradle, like a snare drum cradle.
Wow!
So, and I think that's a kind of what one of the things that gives it the toms the tone that they have.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's 13, 14, 16, and an 18 tom over there at the back there. But I never hit that one. I just stand coffee and stuff on it.
Put it like buddy, your towel, lean on it.
Yeah, that's it. Put some coffee and stuff back there. But but I really like the 22 by 14 and 24 by 14. There's something about the depth of that drum that it gives it a real. It sort of hits you in the chest, sort of poof, poof. There's an attack to it and a warmth to it that I really like about that depth of bass drum. It's really.
I'm glad they're coming back. Those more classic sizes. Yeah. I have one here too as well. A 20.
Look at that.
Yep, a 13, 16, and 22. Yeah, 1966s. That bass drum, I kid you not, Steve, unbelievable. Maybe the best bass drum I've ever played, best bass drum I've owned, and the 16. It all sounds great.
I mean,
good taste.
There's a warmth that comes from these drums that you just don't find anywhere. It's like somebody actually asked me once. They said, you got a Steve Ferrone model Gretsch kit, and I said, yeah. They said, what did you do? What did you do to make it a Steve Ferrone model? I said, I picked out the color. They said, well, you didn't have anything to do with the manufacture of the drums. I said, I'm going to tell Gretsch how to make drums. They've been doing that very well without me. I'll just pick out the color, and you can do the rest.
It's great. And you've been to the factory.
Yeah, listen, I know Dinah's here. She's listening into this. You know what they did? I decided to revive the Cadillac green. the Cadillac
Yeah.
Green. I think it's a 1936 Cadillac, 1950 something. I don't know. I forget what year it is, but it was this Cadillac Green kit that I saw that Max Roach had.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
With the gold trim around the hoops. Right. So I said, can I get that? And the guy, and apparently the paint guy said, I actually happen to have a swatch of that color sitting right here. I made this. So they made me, here you go, Steve Ferrone model, Cadillac Green, beautiful. It comes out, and they like it so much that they say, can we have our color back? Because it's really popular.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, it's beautiful.
So it's like, you mean you want my color? I said, well, yeah, actually it is. Yeah, it's our color. It's not yours. We just sort of loaned it to you for a bit. So they took my color back, Dinah. I know you're listening. And all these people that are here are going to be writing in the Gretsch and say, give Ferrone his color back. Green lives matter.
Oh man, my cheeks are killing, Steve. Oh, I'm telling you. Oh, you're killing me. This is so funny. Oh goodness.
Listen, it's one of two. Either Dinah's sitting there dying laughing right now, or she's laying on the floor with Fred fanning her saying, come to
He doesn't mean it. He's fanning. He's fanning her with this.
That's right.
This sits on my piano while I was trying to learn that Al Jarreau song, and it's like you're glaring at me like going.
No, that's a fun beat to play. It really is fun. I mean, have fun with it. I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, I love it. I did a drum clinic the other day, and I thought, let me throw this. I throw this beat in there, and I started and then I go to the bridge. I screwed it up. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. Gets me every time, that beat.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to work on that this weekend. Now I'm gonna have some time. That's
you have fun. Just have fun with it. Jesus,
and the Duran So Misled, coming up with something like that. Was that another instance where you just was something you played and they went, we like that?
Well, actually, it was actually what happened was that I was sitting in the control room, because they sort of, as I saw this thing that Nick wrote the other day. They challenged me with this because I didn't know anything about programming drums. It was just not my thing. And they challenged me with this thing, and I said, okay. So I had this Lynn drum machine, and I was learning how to use it, right? And I programmed this thing into it, and then they wrote a song to it, and then I overdubbed the drums to it. And so we were in Abbey Road, and we were having these. I mean, the big room in Abbey Road where they did the Beatles thing with all the people and I had that to me. That was mine. They had a stage built in the middle of Abbey Road with my drum kit on it. Wow. And they had mics up all over in the roofs and everything, and we had this drum sound that was just so magnificent. It was incredible. And so they said we were ready to go, and then they decided that they were going to write, and that was it. And so for 3 or 4 days, I'm sitting there. I go into that big room and play, and never get to record anything, and I'm like chomping at the bit to record it. So they're in this room. They're in the room, and I'm in the back of the control room, and I got some headphones on, and I'm messing around with this drum machine, and I'm decided, well, I can start to program some stuff in there for me, right? Because I had some stuff that I was working on this album that I've been working on for decades. I started to program some stuff in there, and they had a little keyboard, and I could program some keyboard stuff, and they're in there writing their stuff. And when I took my headphone off, and I listen, and they're in there, they're playing this dirge. I'm like, Jesus Christ! So I programmed that beat right into the thing, into the Lin drum machine, and I said to the engineer, I said, "Do me a favor, could you send this to them?" And I hit the start button, and they're in there and they're playing this dirge, and I see them sort of stop a second, like, what's that all about? And then John starts to play something on the bass, and then Nick started to play something on the keyboard, Warren, and all of a sudden there it was, So Misled. They came up with it, and Simon started to sing it. So
wow.
Misled. And then they continued right into that, and then I wanted to play that beat throughout the whole song.
Right.
And Nile Rodgers showed up and he said, "No, I think you need to straighten it out, because Duran fans are kind of used to that." And I said,
2 and 4, yeah.
No, this is pretty good. No. And he said no, and he wouldn't let me do it. And so I had to straighten it out and then go back to that beat and use it as a bit of a riff. And So Misled that beat became really popular, and I still listen to it. And I think Niall said to me once, he said, I should have let you go with that idea. Yeah.
Listen to the drummer. Why not, man?
Well, like I say, sometimes you do, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose some. But it whatever happened, I mean, it turned out as a good song, anyways. Great. I just think it would have been really special with that beat going throughout the whole thing. I've done a really good job of that. Yeah.
I remember watching you with Clapton playing the Unplugged Layla, and I played that song many times, and I'm like, why is this not feeling the way that Ferrone plays this thing? And you were playing, I think, rods, not drumsticks on that. Was that an approach that Eric wanted, something for you to play as an unplugged thing, or something that you came up with organically?
No, we did Unplugged. It was sort of a surprise to us, I mean, we were there to rehearse to go on tour at Bray Studios in where we used to rehearse all the time in Oxfordshire, I believe it is, near Windsor Castle.
Yeah.
And Eric comes in and said, we're gonna record this thing in a couple of days, just unplugged. We're going to do this unplugged thing in another studio across the street. So I heard a little bit about it. I think Rod Stewart had done one, or something. Somebody had done something. Somebody had done one. It might have been Nirvana had done one, or somebody had done one I heard about earlier. They were starting to talk about Unplugged. MTV did this thing Unplugged. Yep. And so Eric's like, we're going to do. It's all going to be unplugged, acoustic instruments and everything. So I got a smaller drum kit. I got like a 20-inch bass drum, and we went into rehearsal for it, and Eric shows up with a guitar with gut strings on it, and
wow,
and I also got a pump organ, it's just a pedal, the dang thing to play it.
Unplugged is right.
Yeah, Nathan had an acoustic bass that was plugged into an amp, but it was very quiet. And I quickly discovered that to play with sticks, a cross stick was too much. It would overpower everything. I mean, I couldn't play that quiet and be comfortable. And it was it was just, couldn't hit a cymbal with if you hit a cymbal with a stick, it was just too much. It would
Yeah.
you just lose the, it wasn't control without putting tape and stuff all over it. And so, I said to my drum tech, John Collins, Cully, my colleague, I said, Cully, go to a drum store, any drum store, get everything that they got in there, any kind of percussion, whatever. Came back with with a washboard, kazoos,
Wow.
the triangles, all kinds of stuff and amongst them were these hot rods.
Yes.
And a set of brushes. That's something that I never used for Clapton, was brushes. And shakers, all kinds of stuff. And Ray Cooper was basically playing bongos, and I did everything else with just to mix and match. And those hot rods were like a lifesaver, because I could play comfortably without overpowering everything else. I mean, one of the highlights for me in that was there's a moment when Rolling and Tumbling on that album, on the Unplugged, we were there was a point in the show where they had to change reels, because it was reel to reel. It wasn't digital or anything. It was all reel to reel. And so they said, we're going to pause for a second while they do this thing. They change the reels. And it was all very intimate. I mean, there was people that were sitting right here, like right next to me, around in the circular stage. And I was having a bit of a chat with them and everything. And got my split sticks, and I just started like tapping a little bit, and they started to play this. And I just started to play that, and then Eric sort of picked up on that I was playing something. He just started to strum along, and then Nathan joined in, and everybody started playing. Eric was playing the slide guitar, rolling and tumbling, na 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 na. And next thing you know, this thing was it was a train. It was going, and there was no stopping it. So we're sitting in there, and we're playing, and you can hear it fades in on the record, because somebody, I think Russ Tideman was the producer. He turned around and he said to the assistant engineer, "Get the tape on there. We need the tape on there. Get it on there now." Because he heard this thing that was starting, had the presence of mind to like hustle up the engineer, and he put the tape on and put it back on and tighten the things up, record, and then they didn't catch the very beginning of it, but they faded in, and at the end of the track, you hear Eric say, "Did you get that? Oh. Did you get that?" Because he wasn't sure whether they were recording either, but it was a nice catch. It was
such a massive record. If people that were my age weren't into Clapton previous, because it was maybe a little bit, they certainly were exposed to that an awful lot. And for years, I didn't realize that. I'm like, oh, there's that Steve Ferrone guy. What's he doing in that? What's he doing in Duran Duran? I felt like it was just so many. We would see you everywhere. What do you attest your longevity of your career to?
I love playing music. I just love playing music. I love making music.
Obviously.
There's nothing like it. I've been given this amazing gift.
Yeah.
I've been given this amazing gift. And people ask me how I warm up. The way I warm up is I usually go take a shower, hot shower. While I'm in the shower, I hit my knees and I pray, and I thank God for the talents that I've been given, and I ask them to be home, that whoever I'm working for be happy, and that the people who work so hard to come see us play be happy, and just grateful for the talents that I've been given. And that's it. And I do that before every show. Even if I play in the club down the street, I take a shower here, and I do that in the shower here. yeah, I just
That's wonderful.
I've always put playing first, and because I've done that, somehow I've always made money at it, and I've had a great life. I've put my kids through school, and raised 4 children. I've got 7 grandchildren. Oh, sorry,
Wow.
9 grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
7 boys and 2 girls, and you know, I mean, it's all been just because I really like. I like, you know, somewhere after it was about the girls, about meeting the girls, it suddenly became, you know, this is actually a fun way to make a living. I kind of enjoy doing this. You know, this is a great way. This is a great way to make a living.
It is.
They said it couldn't be done.
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Well, you weren't supposed to be the success that you became, you know what I mean? So you defied the odds, and you just seem to be so difficult to get along with too, you know.
Well, yeah, I am. That's a very
Total
awkward.
pain in the butt. When I phoned you, I remember you picked up the phone like you and I had been friends. Neil! And I'm like, I was grinning, and I'm like going, okay, cool. This is Steve Ferrone here. But you know, it's been almost.
I want to borrow some money from you eventually.
Hello, I think we have a bad connection. So that's Canadian money, right? So we got to multiply it by like 8.
Listen, as long as it's $1, I don't care if it's Canadian or Australian or whatever. It's just
you are too much.
I take donations. I had my own charity. I called it. I used to say to Eric Clapton, I said to him, I had my own charities. What's that? I said, Starving Negroes of Brighton. He said,
oh my.
He said, great, snob. It's called Snob, of which I am the only benefactor. I mean, I'm the only person who benefits from it. So you have to feed me, you know, starving drummer and everything.
You are something else. I'm looking at the list of people here, and we're gonna at some point. And my friend said we have Abbott and Costello here. At some point, we should maybe do a part 2 and get to some of the things that we didn't get to. Like I have like a Michael Jackson session. I didn't know that you were on the Bee Gees, played on a Bee Gees. Like this is Jeffrey Osborne, Tracy Chapman, Johnny Cash. Like we didn't even talk about Saturday.
I don't even remember the Tracy. You know, I keep seeing this Tracy Chapman thing that I get. I don't even remember doing that.
Are you kidding?
Like, what did I do? I don't remember doing a record with Tracy Chapman. I don't remember that. I have no idea.
It was Omar Hakim. No, I'm kidding. No,
it may have been. You know, we all look alike to some people.
Yeah. Well, Wikipedia says that it was you. So
well, I know that. I've seen it. And I was like, could Wikipedia be wrong? Maybe.
Never. No, never. Oh, we'll have to ask Omar if he ever switches drum brand. So
yeah.
Give him a quick call. I'm sure. That
I think I hooked him up with the P band. I think I did. I hooked him up.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
He's been there for a while. Yeah.
Yes. Oh man.
He's a great player. Great guy. Great player.
Beautiful. Yeah, lovely guy. I was fortunate enough to meet him and tech for him many, many years ago. And he's like, "So who are you listening to?" And I'm like you. He goes, "No, what?" Omar was wonderful and really humble and
we played on a couple of albums together.
Okay.
No, you didn't know. See? You find out stuff about the guys you work for. Omar and I, the first time we played together was on a Peter Frampton record.
Wow.
We did double drums, and we faced our drums facing each other, and we played each other. That was when he first said, "What's that drum kit?" And that was a Pearl. It was a Pearl kit that he said.
That's crazy.
And then the next time that we played together was on Marcus Miller when he did Teen Town.
Okay, yeah.
So Omar played all the fills, and I played the pocket underneath with the. I did all that, and then Omar just cut loose on the top end, played all the other stuff. Fantastic.
That's crazy. That wasn't on Wikipedia. I'm disappointed.
Now, you know, it's a difficult thing to do, to play with another drummer like that, because you know sometimes you play with guys and it's all about ego. You know, it's like it was very easy to play with Omar and to play to make this really musical. It was fantastic. He's just a great player.
You both have big ears, right? You're both listening, which is key. Otherwise, it could be a real mess. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it with a few drummers. Jim Keltner's just wonderful to play with that way too. It's just a really great listener. You got to be a real. You have to be a listener to be able to do something like that.
That'd be really fun. I could imagine. We used to do that back when I was in high school. Late in high school, we get our drums together, and I was always the guy that was just playing time. And they're like, "Man, those Gretsch drums sound unbelievable."
Yeah.
I'm like, nice.
Yeah,
Steve, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll do part two with you anytime you want. But give me a bit of a break because my voice is going there.
Yes. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. I think you're going to see your grandson, you were saying, but
no, I'm going. You know, I got to say this. I got this Evite, and it said Evite to my grandson Lennox's birthday party, and then I look and it says 14 people have replied that they're going, and I'm like, no, that ain't gonna happen. So I put no, I'm not going, and then I write to my daughter, you know, Becky, I'm a little bit worried about being around so many people at this time with the way everything is here. I hope you understand, Dad. And then on a personal note, you know what? I don't think you should be doing this because, you know, the way things are with COVID. And I started to write this whole thing about, you know, really sort of telling my daughter, giving her what for about having some gathering like that with how irresponsible she was. And then I thought, no, you know, I better not do that. And so I erased it all back to the love bag. You know? And I said it, and I said, I'll talk to her in person about that because I'm writing too angry. It could be interpreted as being too angry. So I send it off to her. About 10 minutes later, my phone rings. I answer the phone. It's my daughter, Becky. Hey, Becky, how you doing? She said, Dad, it's a Zoom party.
Oh. You're not going anyway.
I got saved. I got saved for making a complete ass out of myself. So what I have to say is that when you this is some drummerly grandfather, grandpappy. I'm going to give you some grandpappy drummer advice. When you get something and you see something and you start to react badly to it, don't bother. Wait. Just react nicely. You can say, no, I'm not going to go. No, sorry, I'm not going to go.
Very wise.
Wait, and just send it off nicely. And you might do what I just did, was prevent yourself from becoming a giant asshole. So there.
Oh my God, my cheeks are killing me, Steve. I haven't laughed this much and smiled this much. Oh well, I'm still on the dirty knobs thing here. Okay, like it's still funny. I read that in that interview, and I was shaking. I was reading it at night. My wife's sleeping, and I'm like, and she's like, "What is funny?" I'm like, "You wouldn't understand. It was just never." And I've never told her, but she might see it now. Thank you so much.
You're
All
welcome.
the best to you. I want to thank you. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for the grooves. Thanks for everything. Thanks for being such a great human, and thank you for not getting in trouble with your daughter.
Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for showing up and for the questions and everything. And we'll do this again, and you can get in your other questions. Okay.
Sounds good. You take care, Steve. Bye, everybody.
Bye. How do I do this? There you go.